Pokemon cards throughout history have been constantly evolving. Sometimes for the best, and sometimes for the worst. Yeah, I'm talking about you Prism cards, you ugly pieces of garbage. Sorry about that outburst. Either way, today we're going to be talking about the evolution of Pokemon cards and how they went from simple holographic pattern designs to flippin' golden engraved metal going for $200 on release. So, where to begin with the evolution of Pokemon cards? Well, before the TCG was even a thing, of course. One of the earliest versions of what we could consider to be Pokemon cards actually came in the form of 1996 collectible cards by Bandai, titled Pokemon Monsters Card-Ass Trading Cards. The Card-Ass cards were originally released in two different sets, with 309 cards between the two of them. These cards originally featured the 151 Pokemon that we all came to know and love. These cards had designs on them more reflective of the Pokemon manga, mixed with minimalist pixelated holographic backgrounds. They did have a type of holographic rarity known as Prism rarity. No, not that crap we'd get 25 years later. This was a blocky holographic style that I've more commonly seen in things like sports cards versus Pokemon cards. We wouldn't really see any form of reproduction of these cards in the future, and they still maintain the status of a really unique collector's piece from the past. While the cards did have some success, they weren't the breakaway hit that we know as the Pokemon TCG today. Yes, they were collectible and some people still enjoy adding them to their collections, but they never hit the raving media success that was to come. But before we talk about that, let's quickly talk about another collectible card with everyone's favorite pocket monster, Charizard, on the cover. Pokemon Poker Cards. These Pokemon Poker cards weren't exactly what we'd come to expect from Pokemon cards, but they were an important part of history as they were released in 1996, close to the release of the base set of Pokemon cards. These poker cards are still highly collectible today, and actually are relatively affordable. A complete set of both the Venusaur deck and the Charizard deck go for around $400, which compared to other Pokemon cards that came out back in 1996 is affordable. So if you want to go ahead and have a neat little piece of Pokemon history in your hand, you can check this out on eBay. While they are neat, they aren't exceptionally exciting. Yes, the art designs on them are quite cool and were indeed used in future actual Pokemon cards that would be released. They're just simply poker cards and don't have that level of excitement of the real deal. So enough of all this hubbub, I think it's time we get into the real deal of this video. The release of Pokemon base set cards and the true start of the evolution of Pokemon cards. Pokemon cards in their true form first released in Japan in 1996. This base set release of cards were very simple. Most of them were simply the Pokemon featured on top of a blurred stock image background. Despite the simplicity of this artwork, these cards sold out like wildfire, with the initial first edition Shadowless run going off the shelves in mere days, and the second Shadowless run going like hotcakes as well. Only with the release of Base Set Unlimited, which finally added a shadow to the card, did the card stock manage to stay on the shelves. The immediate success of Pokemon brought a desire to kids across the globe to finish their collection binders, and they did so very quickly. These cards were honestly not that hard to pull. There were only 102 cards in Pokemon base set, and one booster box could essentially complete the entire set save for a couple of holos. Despite the simple artwork and limited set, it still set the groundwork for Pokemon for years to come. Icons of the TCG were soon formed, with Gyarados, Blastoise, Venusaur, Zapdos, Mewtwo, and of course Charizard becoming quick favorites of collectors. The simple artwork was the perfect introduction to Pokemon card collecting. Soon after base set's release came two more sets that were frankly extremely similar. These were Jungle and Fossil. These two sets began the idea of themed Pokemon sets. These are the only two sets that I can think of where the themes of the sets have to do with an environment. Jungle being Pokemon you'd find in a jungle biome, and Fossil being prehistoric Pokemon and desert Pokemon. In the future, we would get things like Gym Heroes, Team Rocket, and others that are themed after trainers, or we'd get future sets that are themed after a certain card like Team Up Pokemon. But Jungle and Fossil were the short-lived intro into environmental themes. I'd honestly love to see this again in the future with perhaps an entire set built out of ocean Pokemon with thematic work to go along with it. Now, these two sets didn't exactly evolve the artwork or holographics in the cards all that much. They were still extremely basic Pokemon sprites on top of stock images or backgrounds. Probably the most elaborate these cards got were Psyduck getting a migraine from a fish. But beyond that, the cards mimicked a base set for the most part. And for good reason too. Why would you change the formula after immediate success? But as everyone knows, if you do the same thing to death, then you yourself will die. So Wizards of the Coast doubled down with base set 2, of course. Base set 2 is just a combo of base set cards and jungle cards with a 2 slapped in there for good measure. This set was never all that popular back in the day, as all of the cards had already been seen. It was basically one last cash grab for an already existing product. And don't worry, they will do this again. But looking back on base set 2 now, it is really fun to open, since it's extremely nostalgic to even see these artworks again. And it's a cheaper alternative to base set or jungle if you want to open vintage packs. But still, at the same time, it definitely left a lot of Pokemon fans underwhelmed back in the day. But that would all change soon with the release of the final set in the base set series, Team Rocket. Team Rocket is my personal favorite base set series, and for good reason too. They were finally straying away from the original formula. The cards were no longer so simplistic. They actually had fully created backgrounds drawn by the artists, and the stock images were mostly gone. The sprites also experienced a change. They were no longer simple Pokemon blobs, but were now in action-packed stances, or actually a part of the art in the card itself. They weren't just the foreground characters anymore. In addition to that, dark cards were also introduced, something that would see a return in future sets. And honestly, I wish we'd see more of that today. There's something so exciting about seeing a dark Blastoise and knowing that that thick boy is evil. Not only did we get these dark cards with this expansion, but we also got our first ever secret rare card, Dark Raichu. This card was the first instance of Pokemon not officially letting people know that there's actually one last card you might need to finish up your collection. It actually led to a lot of confusion among collectors back in the day, since they thought the 83 out of 82 number on the bottom was an error. But no, it was done intentionally so that you'd have a secret rare at the end. Speaking of errors real quick, with the end of the base set series, we're going to be seeing a lot less errors in the cards as well. Part of the evolution of Pokemon cards is also the evolution of quality control. In base set series, as well as some of the other Wizards of the Coast sets, we see a lot of errors. These come in the form of shadowless cards, spelling mistakes, a promo literally getting put in a set by accident, and more. These errors, of course, increase the value of these cards significantly, but I am glad that for the most part, they've stayed in the WotC era, since too many errors make the cards feel rushed and create just one more hyper-expensive thing that you need to complete a set. So let's move on to the 100% totally error-free Gym series. I'm just kidding, there are still mistakes, but at least less of them now. With the introduction of the Gym series, we got two short-lived sets, Gym Heroes and Gym Challenge. I say that these sets are short-lived because we honestly don't have anything like this again for a long time. We get more villain sets over the years, like Team Rocket Returns, but gym sets are few and far between in the world of the Pokemon TCG. But they are actually really cool sets. Each Pokemon in these sets are owned by a different gym leader or person in the anime, or video game Pokemon universe. It made the cards feel like they had more of a history to them, and the artwork showed this as well. This is when we start heavily getting museum level artwork. What Team Rocket started, Gym series elaborated on heavily. These card artworks told stories and evoked emotions from the card holder. The holo cards still remained somewhat sprite-based, but they started to experiment with holos having backgrounds as well, instead of just random colors. Not to mention, it might just be me, but the holographic textures themselves on these cards look way more clean and beautiful than all previous sets. They really made the holo foil pop and bring the cards to life in Gym Series. These are two sets of the WotC era that I feel brought the TCG to life, and I think they don't get enough credit for it today. Now, we are going to be moving on to the Neo era of Pokemon. A crossroads with new Pokemon to add to the TCG and also new opportunities to evolve the TCG itself. But before we get into the Neo era, I just want to say that I think this is where each Pokemon set gets a little less unique, and the series it's in is actually what's more unique overall. For example, Team Rocket was completely different from Jungle or Base Set, while in upcoming series like E-Cards, the sets within them are similar to each other like Aquapolis and Skyridge, but the series as a whole is more thematic. So, Neo Series. God, Neo Series. If I could go back in time, these are the sets that I would steal. I mean buy. I would buy these sets from Target back in the day. No, not steal. Neo Series sets took the artwork to a whole new level. They began to try new things with each and every new Pokemon card, having some being extremely dark, others mysterious, or some downright cute and playful. Neo Genesis acted like the base set for Gen 2, starting things off simple yet gorgeous with the artwork. But from there, Neo Series just upped their game. Cards were experimental, like pastel designs. The intro to clay cards happened during Neo, and even some more abstract weird stuff, like this Dark Gengar. But speaking of Dark Gengar, Neo also brought back things that worked, like Dark cards coming back into the fold. But not only that, they evolved those cards by including light variants too. These light cards are some of the most beautiful ever created in the TCG. Vaporeon literally makes my heart melt. It's a puddle in there now. That's not all that Neo Series did to up the Pokemon card game. They also added Shining Pokemon, the first real example of rarity beyond holographic. Shining Pokemon were unbelievable in the Neo series. The artwork alone made you realize that you pulled something extremely valuable, and the fact that they were difficult to pull made it even better. These Shining Pokemon cards told stories. The best example of this is Shining Gyarados, with a trainer in a boat before this monstrosity ahead of him. You can't help but wonder about this card. Was this a fisherman who got unlucky and was caught out in a storm with a villainous Gyarados? Or was this a trainer, brave to the bone, going out there to try and catch this legendary creature? And then there's Shining Charizard with his thick ass! After Neo Series brought Pokemon to new heights, WotC decided to bring it back down for whatever reason. They essentially created Base Set 3 with the Legendary Collection. At the time, this set did not perform very well. It was Base Set, Jungle, Fossil, and Team Rocket all in one, and quite frankly, people were probably very tired of these sets. You could still buy unlimited versions of these on store shelves in value packs for extremely cheap. Nowadays, this set has a massive resurgence in the public eye, however, for one key reason: reverse holos. This was the first ever main series set to feature reverse holos, and they did it right. They used bombastic firework reverse holos on every card in the set, making it so fun to chase down every single reverse. I was lucky enough to buy a good amount of them back in 2016, because now these things are wicked expensive. And for good reason too. They were sick. But that's not the only thing this set evolved in the Pokemon landscape. We also got jumbo cards for the first time in the form of card toppers. Or box toppers. I don't know what people call it. That's right though, massive jumbo Pokemon cards that very few people collect. I think they're a neat bonus, but honestly I just don't care for them that much myself, and I think lots of other collectors feel the same. But with that, we are in the end game now. Well, at least Wizards of the Coast is, because we're into the EReader series, which was the final series WotC did for Pokemon. After that, Pokemon Company took control of card production, but We'll get into that in a little bit. The EReader series is composed of Expedition, acting as the base set of the series, plus there's Skyridge and Aquapolis. At this point in the card game, the massive initial buzz was beginning to die down. Less people were picking up the new sets, but that didn't mean the sets themselves weren't evolving. These EReader cards are probably the most unique of any Pokemon cards, because they could be slid on a Game Boy e-reader and projected into your game, giving you information about the Pokemon you just swiped. They were honestly pretty useless and a niche gimmick for the cards, but they still completely changed the standard composition of Pokemon cards, making the cards now have almost a bulkier design to them. It was a really nice touch after a few years of the same style of Pokemon card design. And honestly, the cards are hard to come by in mint condition now because of the design. Kids would slide them like credit cards, damaging the cards themselves. This, plus the dwindling support for the hobby, makes these some of the most rare cards in the entire TCG. So, they are rare, but are they desirable? Yes, extremely. These cards not only changed the entire designs of Pokemon cards, but also went all out on the artwork. These three sets are considered by many to be the greatest pinnacle of Pokemon artworks of all time. They have a wide range of art styles and themes. Some are hyper-realistic, some are bright and vibrant, while others are childishly drawn in nature. However, no matter how they were drawn, each card is a masterpiece. From Expedition to Skyridge, these cards cannot be beaten, and the hunt for them was amped up, since reverse holos would now become a mainstay in Pokemon cards. Each card in the set had a reverse holo version, making a master set harder to complete, but also making each artwork feel more valuable due to it having a holo version of it. Not only were these cards amazing, but the newest rarity was as well, Crystal Pokemon cards. They're very similar to Shining Pokemon in terms of their rarity. They were special cards a level above Holo that were dropped into very, very few packs. These crystal cards are highly coveted and fetch an extreme price on the market today. Now, one more quick thing to add about the Expedition, Skyridge, and Aquapolis sets is that this marked the end of the first edition stamp. For whatever reason, Wizards of the Coast decided to no longer include that on Pokemon cards, and it would never see a return. It was still prevalent in Japanese cards, and would return on Japanese cards in many sets in the future, including CP6, which is rather, recent. However, on English cards, it would never be seen again. And that was just about the end of Wizards of the Coast. And with it, the end of a lot of fans. A lot of interest in Pokemon card collecting went down. There are many fans out there who just stopped at Skyridge. That's it. After that, they don't spend any more money on Pokemon. Whether it's they believe the Pokemon company does a bad job, or that they just think the sets get too complicated afterwards. Both are fair opinions, but I personally think that there is still a ton of value after WotC, and I personally collect a lot of modern or later vintage Pokemon cards like the Diamond and Pearl era. Straight after the Pokemon company took over printing, there was a large dip in interest. This was a long time coming and wasn't really their fault. To be honest, regular people and casual collectors probably had no idea that the production companies changed hands. I think the drop off was more of a natural thing. People grew up, and the hype died down considerably. This wouldn't be the last time Pokemon would have crazy hype, but it was the first major dip in collectors. As a result, welcome to the dark era of Pokemon card collecting. Now, I don't call it the dark era because the cards suck or anything like that, some do, but more because there was a serious lack of interest in Pokemon cards. A lot of collectors had left the hobby at this time, and many more were just not as enthusiastic as they used to be. This results in the majority of the sets from the EX era being weak sellers, and a low population overall. In fact, many collectors believe that EX Team Rocket Returns is one of the worst selling Pokemon sets of all time, if not the worst selling. Ironically, this is also when I emerged in the hobby as a young lad, collecting many of my first Pokemon cards ever from this era. Now, the first 3 sets in the EX era did start things off with the E-Series cards returning. However, they had a different look from what WotC did, going for a more subdued and simple design rather than the larger, bolder WotC design. At this point, E-Series cards were already on their way out, and were still just being made to probably sell the last of the e-reader stock. The e-reader cards weren't the only thing being phased out though. The artistry was as well. A lot of the art from these sets abandoned the look of WotC. A lot of WotC cards, especially Neo series, could hang in a museum. Now with EX series, a lot more of the art was how I would describe as corporate. It wasn't very experimental, and it was very clean and bubblegummy. I actually don't mind this art too much, it's a little nostalgic for me, but I can't say it wasn't a step back from Aquapolis or Skyridge. However, the reverse holos in the EX series are some of my favorites to ever exist. Sets like EX Emerald, EX Fire Red Leaf Green, and EX Holland Phantoms had unique reverse holos that essentially made the art on the cards holographic and added a small stamp in the corner stating which set it was from. It felt like each artwork was special and really added to the card's collectability. Not to mention, the holo patterns came in the form of Pokeballs, energy symbols, and more. It was so unique and special, and honestly, I really wish it came back. Modern reverse holos are essentially bulk, and this would really spice up a lot of those beautiful artworks on commons and uncommons that don't get that special treatment they deserve. But that's not the only thing I wish came back from these series, because some of the most fun ultra rares came from these sets. This was the start of Pokemon having too many chase cards in my opinion. But honestly, for now, it worked and wasn't too out of hand. For now, we got EX cards, which usually featured silver borders and some powerful artwork of popular Pokemon on the front. These cards definitely made regular holos less special, which I think is a rampant part of the problem with Pokemon currently. But they also made it so much cooler to pull these cards. The chase was insane, and if you pulled one, it was like you struck gold. But what was more like striking gold was the Gold Star cards. These cards were amazing. Seriously, some of my favorite cards of all time. They had beautiful artworks on them, and were incredibly hard to pull. In fact, that's an understatement. These were impossible to pull, and if you did pull one, you were the belle of the ball. I think this unique set of cards was so cool, and having something so difficult to get was awesome. Now, in retrospect, I wish they weren't so hard to pull so I could actually have more of them in my collection. But it is definitely nice to have a few, considering they're now so expensive. Beyond that, the EX series added things like Delta Species and brought back Dark Pokemon through Team Rocket Returns. The last notable thing about this era is the further use of more CGI Pokemon, as well as better development of CGI technology. Honestly, overall this era added some fun things to the TCG, but didn't do anything crazy or special. It was cool and is loved in retrospect because it wasn't printed very much and had good chase cards. But beyond that, I like to think of it as the Pokemon Company trying to get their footing after WotC left. Now the next era is when I truly went all in on collecting myself, the Diamond and Pearl era. These cards, while super nostalgic for me, honestly, are a little bit boring. It is about as generic of Pokemon cards as you can get. The holos are nice and the arts are fine, but there's nothing crazy or super exciting about opening these cards. The Level X cards introduced are fun chase cards, but there's so many of them in each set that I think it makes the sets feel small. Additionally, the reverse holos of this set were so boring. They were just blank holos surrounding the art. It was a massive dip from the beautiful reverse holos we got in the EX series. I think Diamond and Pearl is still loved because it has Gen 4 in it so heavily, which you don't get a lot of in future sets. And also because it's nostalgic for people my age, around 20 to 24 years old. But overall, this set just didn't do that much for the TCG. I put Platinum in with Diamond and Pearl, except for a little bit better, because they made more level X cards for each set, as well as the Arceus collection in Platinum Arceus, which was a fun addition to have every single type of Arceus build together into a big binder page. That was kinda cool. They also added a few random shiny Pokemon you could find as secret rares, which was quirky and a fun treat. But again, nothing crazy, exciting, or innovating was really done in Platinum either. Next up, we've got Heart Gold Soul Silver series, which was a much needed return to competency for Pokemon. It's as if in D&P they were just going through the motions, but now we were getting new and exciting ideas again. It was like Pokemon was back to being inspired. A lot of the art in Heart Gold Soul Silver was back to being beautiful. There was a lot less CGI and a lot more detail and care put into each card. It might not have been the same artsy touch of a set like Aquapolis, but it was still excellent nonetheless. Additionally, the Prime cards made their appearance as well as the double cards. Prime cards and double cards, which are cards that have two Pokemon and are split between two different cards to form one larger art. Well, these two ideas weren't very well received at the time. I think people love them a lot more now, but back then people thought they were dumb, to be honest. Now I think Prime cards are a perfect example of what a chase card should be. Shiny, bold, exciting, and eye-catching. While the double cards are just a fun bonus to find in a pack by chance. Now, Black and White era is the next up. And this is what I consider to be the start of modern Pokemon. Modern Pokemon really doesn't change much except the names of the cards they use. This is true for Black and White, XY, Sun and Moon, and Sword and Shield. In most of these sets, the rarities are completely messed up. You have Holos, Ultra Rares, Full Arts, Secret Rares, VMAX, GX, EXV, Prism, Breaks, Shiny cards, and more. Honestly, I think once Black and White starts, Pokemon collecting gets super wasteful. Each booster box has 24 packs that you might as well throw away as it's all bulk. And then 12 packs could be considered hits. And out of those 12 packs, maybe 4 of them actually give you a card you want, while the rest are just kind of holos that are barely more than bulk. I think there's too many things jammed into these packs that you can potentially pull, and when everything is rare, then nothing really is rare. You just get so much junk in a box, all for that 1 or 2 chase cards that you actually want. Back in the day, if you opened a Jungle booster box, you got 12 holos, probably 9 of which you were really excited to get. And then even the commons and uncommons were still cool to keep. But now, commons, uncommons, and reverse are all bulk. And there's a couple cards in each set that you're maybe actually excited for. These standard sets are honestly all the same from Black and White until now, with only the names for every card changing from GX to VMAX or whatever. I think right now with Pokemon, there are only 2 things that I think are amazing that they've done. For one, specialty sets. Things like Hidden Fates, Generations, Shining Fates, Celebrations, and others of the same type are amazing additions to the hobby and are reminiscent of old school unboxings. The other main evolution modern Pokemon has brought that I love are the Rainbow Rares, Team Up cards, and alternate art V cards. Basically anything of super rarity. Rainbow Rares are just the ultimate rarity that I could ever think of that I think are super fun to pull. Team Up cards resulted in some really fun tag teams that were goofy and fun-spirited with cool artworks. I liked those a lot. Finally, I think the alternate art cards are just beautiful artworks that I would love to just have an entire binder filled with. I think these could end up being the gold stars of the future, just maybe a little bit more common than gold stars. Finally, the last modern part of Pokemon that I think has evolved for the better is the promos. Modern promos are so interesting, with Poncho Pikachu's special delivery cards, Munch promos, metal gold cards, and more being extremely fun to grab. These are definitely a fun silver lining to the era of bulk Pokemon cards that are worth 1/4 of a penny. I think the evolution of Pokemon overall has stalled out for a little while. but I think the addition of these holiday sets and full arts are a silver lining. Pokemon is getting back into the days of creativity and inspiration, putting real time and themes into sets and ideas that they want to implement into the hobby. From Black and White until Sword and Shield, I think half of the products are good, while the other 3/4 are downright bad, and 1/4 are amazing. I think Pokemon went from putting love into every single set they published to trying to meet the quota of churning out Pokemon cards. I believe that the vast majority of actual evolving done for Pokemon took place during the WotC era, and from there it's been relatively uninspired. Don't get me wrong, I love Pokemon still and collect the things that I really love when they come out. But back in the day, it felt like every new set was so innovative and exciting. Maybe it's just nostalgia, and I'll look back on things like Steam Siege, Rebel Clash, and Battle Styles very passionately. But for now, I literally only want my Tyranitar alt art, and you can have the rest of the booster box as bulk. So, that's the evolution of Pokemon cards as I see it. Lots of evolving in the WotC era, and then a slow trickle of new ideas, some hits and some misses. Either way, guys, I want to thank you guys for watching. I really do hope you enjoyed this video. Please be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below your own opinion on modern day Pokemon versus old school Pokemon. Do you think Pokemon has evolved for the better, or do you think they're hitting a bit of a low point right now? Let me know. I definitely think there's pros and cons to every single era that has ever existed, and it's just about personal preference for the most part. Either way, thank you for watching through this whole thing. If you did watch through the whole thing, comment down below, Bidoof supremacy. Either way, have a nice day, bye!